And welcome back to American Agenda. I'm Heather Childers along with Bob Sellers. Now listen to this. A Florida teenager is being charged as an adult for allegedly rigging the school's homecoming queen election, hacking the school computer to get votes in her favor. And now Emily Grover, that's her name, and her mother could face up to 16 years for the crime, including these charges: offenses against computer users, criminal use of personally identifiable information, unlawful use of a two-way communications device, and conspiracy. Now, some say that this is unfair, considering that the two teenage girls who killed the Uber Eats driver, do you remember them? They received a plea deal with prosecutors with no prison time, accepting guilt for second-degree murder while armed and getting mental evaluations. Some say the difference in justice here is completely unfair, and some have raised the issue of race. The high school beauty queen is white, and the girls in the Uber driver case are black. So let's bring our panel back to talk about this again. And I will start with you, Ted. What do you think about this? I mean, you know, someone tries to rig a homecoming election versus someone that tried to carjack an Uber Eats driver, and that ended in that man's death.
Well, hopefully that this does not go forward with any sentences of this kind. It would be outrageous if that were the case. The fact that they're even being considered is outrageous. I don't think that's what's going to happen in the end. And with comparing the two is, you know, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. The fact that those girls were let off on a plea deal is outrageous in and of itself. And the fact that they would be going forward in charging this beauty queen with anything is ridiculous. So I'll wait and see what the actual district attorney moves forward with before we jump to any conclusions.
Yeah. Melanie, what do you think?
You know, this is where, as a brown person, I get really upset at the impression that brown people need to be coddled because of the misdeeds of the past. We need to be coddled, and we don't need to be held accountable as Black people because of the things that have happened in the past, because the law has mistreated us in the past. Now we don't need to be held accountable for things that happen today. I find it to be outrageous that these kids are not going to do any kind of real time for actually taking a man's life.
Yeah,
I think that's terrible. I'm sure I'm going to get some mean tweets because of that, but that's how I feel about that.
Yeah, and the difference in what they're being accused of, I mean, that's what's remarkable as well, Hal.
I think their race
Melanie.
absolutely has something to do with it.
You do? Why do you think that?
I think it's because of the community that they live in, and I think it's because of the climate that we live in, the racial climate that we're living in now in the United States.
Yeah, because
absolutely is contributing to the leniency on these Black girls.
Yeah, it also might have something to do with the fact that that happened in Washington, D.C.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How?
Yeah, well, we're supposed to get equal treatment under the law, and it's clearly not happening here. And, what's really frustrating, if you look at what the police chief said in D.C. after this plea deal was struck, he defended it and said that he even said that there are cases where there are multiple, the defendants have multiple carjackings. So they're getting the same kids coming back doing carjackings over and over, which means, what are you doing? If you're not going to prosecute it as a real crime, you're going to keep getting more of it. So what they're doing makes no sense. It puts the public in danger. I'd be scared to be an Uber driver and have to drive around and pick up people that could carjack me and kill me and have no consequences. And then they talk about, well, Uber drivers don't want to pick up Black individuals. And again, this perpetuates that whole thing. It's not a good way to operate. And people are scared, and they're going to have more of this crime, and he's already said it.
Yeah, we were showing video of the incident that happened. I mean, it was a violent incident where they were trying to carjack him and then, dragging him along the street and then eventually crashing the car. And then, Bob, at the end of it, they were just concerned about getting their cell phones.
Yeah, they ran back through all the craziness to get their cell phones out of the car instead of, at least from video I've seen, looking in to see how the man was. He was dead. Yeah. And there's, look at him, leaving a family behind. Now, the situation with the homecoming queen thing, the mother, mind you, was an assistant principal at a school. So she had access to computer information. She did something wrong there. There's no question. She should be penalized in some way. But I think most of us on this conversation would agree that that penalty should not be 16 years in jail. and certainly not for the daughter, who I think was 17 at the time. And frankly, if you're a mother, if you're a daughter and has a mother who is doing that kind of thing, she's not setting a good example anyway.
Right. I wonder, though, Melanie, will the fact that they are white play into them getting a stricter sentence given the circumstances of the environment and the climate right now across the country?
I think it is going to play a significant role in whether or not they get a stricter sentence. I think things have turned on their head into, if you're white, things are going to be worse for you. And if you're black, you're going to get things lighter. Because now things are punitive now. You're going to get punished for the sins of your father if you're white. And if you're black, you're going to get things lighter on you because of the sins of the past. I feel like that's the way things are working now.
Yeah, and if things are out there in the media, as they are, then there are going to be a lot of people saying they better be held to account, and as opposed to, wait a minute, let's use a little common sense here.
Yeah, and ultimately that does a disservice to everyone. And then you see these young people coming up and having no regard at all for law enforcement. And then you see what is happening with law enforcement across the country. Ted?
Well, I agree. And certainly the mother is probably going to lose her job over that, hacking into the computers. I think it's actually kind of funny that they did it. It reminds me of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, when Ferris Bueller hacked in it and changed his grades. We all thought that was a hilarious movie when it happened. And I look at this and I think that there was nobody hurt. Certainly nobody was killed. And the mother's probably going to lose her job, but nobody should be going to jail over this. It's a ridiculous thing to even be considering that.
That's what's frightening, Heather, is they could.
For 16 years they could. And I worry with what Melanie said as well, that skin color is coming into play, and it's not necessarily being decided in the courts by what is reasonable and just. It's being decided by the response of the social media mob instead.
Yeah. All right, we're going to leave that one there. More coming up.